Nothing in this podcast is intended as investment advice, and the people in this podcast may hold positions in the stocks they talk about. Do not buy any investment based solely on a tip or recommendation. Please do your own research.
Good afternoon and welcome. This is live from West Virginia, Ben's Creek. I'm introducing the Sunday Roast. I've got two guests that you're very familiar with. Hello, Kevin, and hello, Phil.
How's it going?
Very nice to meet you in person. Imagine my surprise when the pair of you turned up.
We've been on a road trip all the way from New York.
Tell me all about it.
Well, we started off in New York for a couple of nights, and we went sightseeing and saw a few things in New York, which was entertaining. And then we headed down to Philadelphia. And yes, Phil had Philadelphia, the song, blasting out past the rocky stairs, which was good fun. And then we had a Philly cheesesteak.
You had it. Let's get this right. You had a chili cheesecake. Very nice.
A chili cheesecake in Philadelphia, or maybe just a Philadelphia steak. What is a cheesesteak?
A Philly cheesesteak, I think, is
Philly cheesesteak.
You were obviously overwhelmed, Kevin. It's taking your breath away. But
we ended up going to some backwater, like a proper dusty place. I don't know if you know it, a place called Ben's Creek.
Ben's Creek coal mine, the famous coal mine. Did it actually exist? Was there a mine and any coal?
Well, at first it was a bit deceiving, you know, all the pixies and fairies all floating around and everything. But yeah, I was quite overwhelmed by what I saw, to be honest. I don't know about you, Kev. What do you think?
I didn't want to go down the bloody mine in the first place. So there definitely was a mine there, in several different things. Yeah, the sheer scale of it, and I think I was a bit blown away by how sort of professionally organized it was, and everybody had their jobs, and even when we were driving around, the safety that was involved in coming past some of the big vehicles and stuff, it really was I was not surprised, but it was like a nice view of what was going on. And you could see also the reclamation of the land, you know, all the high wall mining stuff that's already taken place. They've already started to turn it back into nature. We had some videos there of them spraying the mountainside with the grass and the fertilizer to start the process again. So yeah, they're just returning to how it was after going inside the mountain and taking the coal. Yeah, the high wall miner machine was pretty amazing what it was doing, to be honest with you. It's like modern technology. Obviously, this thing going up to 800 to 1,000 feet inside the mountain, and the guy on the control has to control the ups and downs of the dip, because obviously this thing isn't completely straight, so he's controlling the ups and downs of that. That's why you sometimes get a bit of rock in there as well if there's a big dip or an uplift in the thing. But it was fascinating to see. Bloody noisy, and lots of coal coming out, and yeah, extremely interesting.
I was going to beat you to it then, Kevin, and tell your listeners, what did we do then? Were we cruel enough to send you both 1,000 feet into the center of the mountain?
Well, I didn't really have a choice, did I? To be honest, I was saying I didn't want to go, but I had to go, you know, basically. But before we did that, we went on one of these big monster trucks, which basically carries 100 tons of coal or rock or whatever you want it to carry. And yeah, you've got to climb about 2 flights of stairs to get up to the driving position. And yeah, that was very interesting, because the driver basically sits over the left-hand wheel in this case. And yeah, he was showing me how it looks like we're driving over the cliff, but we're not, you know, because basically we're sitting on the wheel. Yeah. So that was interesting. And then we went down to the bit which I was really looking forward to, and I couldn't wait to go underground in about 40-inch space in a vehicle that I wouldn't trust as far as and lying flat and looking up at the ceiling and thinking, oh, that's interesting. There's coal on the left and there's coal on the right. And there's lots of coal.
But
And then
I must admit, when he started doing that 3-point turn and it went, you couldn't even like move your head up. It was that. I looked at you and I just went, "This isn't good, man. This is not. I don't think I'm equipped for this." Like, it's like, you know, when you're a kid and you trap your head under the bed and you panic because you try and turn it, and there's nothing worse than that blind panic. It was like that.
Yeah, no, it was a bloody 7-point turn. Never mind 3.
So are your viewers going to lose you from the Sunday roast and you're now full-time coal miners, or will you be returning and replacing the current host? And shall I go back to the mining?
There's no chance. I wasn't even a willing miner in the first place, so there's not much point in me staying. Anyway,
I haven't got the cojones. I haven't got the good cojones or cojones for that, to be honest. The guy who took us on that little cart, he was hardcore, wasn't he? He was just not phased one bit.
Cool as a cucumber. But you have to understand that they're basically just mining the seam. So that this seam is anything from 40 to 60 inches high, and they're basically going out, and then they square patterns within this. So you're not mining all of the coal, because obviously the mountain will fall on top of you. So it's like square patterns that they do. You know, you mine 60 feet, I think it is, and then a break, and then another 60 feet, and then a break in like square patterns all under the mountain. So the mountain is still supported, as well as obviously the supports that they're putting up there. So it was fascinating to see. Not fascinating to do, I hasten to add yet again, but certainly, an interesting thing. One to tell the grandchildren, I think. Yes, I went however many feet it was underground. We didn't go very down, it was really across so much, so basically we were right under the center of the mountain. And yeah, it was very entertaining. And if you want me to do it again, I'm not.
Well, let me just clear a few things up. Well, firstly, a high wall miner does the majority of the production, which I think you both understood. So you're talking, at least 3/4, maybe more of the production is done above ground on the high wall miner. We only do a small proportion underground, but that's the better quality coal. And we're using the two coals to blend, which are properly ventilated. There's 3 mines, one with a air shaft in it, one emergency thing. We just wanted to show you the different types of mining, because I think there has been some misunderstanding on some of the bulletin boards. We are running one small deep mine and eventually 2 large high wall miners, one of which we had you on. The majority of the coal is coming from the above ground high wall miner. Takes out it's only a very small amount of coal that comes from the deep mine, and that's used to blend the quality to the very high quality and consistent high bulby price that we're selling.
Yeah, and then after that we went to first of all we went to see the extremely huge pile of coal that was sitting below the wash plant. So there's about 20,000+ tons of coal and being added to every day, basically, which is getting ready to be shipped out on the next train, which will be the first train, obviously, but that's going to happen in the next while. Money's being paid for that already, I think, if I'm right, Adam.
Not all of the money. They've paid a deposit, so we can continue. The trains can catch up very, very quickly. Each train can be 10 to 15,000. You could well have 2 trains in one day. So you could get 30,000 tons shifted in a day. And normally the trains tie up with the vessel that's coming in. So yes, we have got a lot of clean coal there, which is obviously good to see. As soon as the trains come in May, and they're confirmed to come in May, our stockpile will reduce fairly rapidly. We can't make as much coal as they can ship in a day. So it was nice to be able to show you that. And I think you actually went round, if I didn't go in with you, but you went in with the safety team. You went and had a look round the wash plant. So
yeah, that was impressive.
You can see the coal being separated.
I mean, the thing that struck me is you could watch the raw coal coming in, in different size rocks, and obviously going through the different separation techniques that you've got there. And obviously the way the gravity works, and then you've got the flotation and the big sort of shakers and the grab. But the thing that struck me is when you stand on that, the kind of like that, not on the outcrop, but above where the coal's coming in on the conveyor, you can see raw coal coming in. And then if you turn the other way, and there's a video that I put on there, it would probably be on Twitter, you can see the clean coal coming out right down into the stockpile pot. And that was just phenomenal to see the in and out process. It's brilliant.
Yeah, and even from there, I hope that we also showed you how it goes from the stockpile into the lowdown. Now that again has all been mediated. We have what's called fast flood lowdown, which means that from a conveyor we can load a unit train in about 5 hours. So to just give you speed of how quickly we can turn that into the trains as soon as the cars arrive, which is slightly out of our control. The railroad, which I think we drove the entire length of, and you could see that it's all finished, all signed off. We can have we could load 2 or 3 unit trains in a number of days. So
that was a great little adventure, wasn't it? With Larkin going down in the ATV, and you go and driving pretty much drove the whole length of that railroad and saw the work that had been done on it with the new ties and obviously or sleepers as we refer to them in the UK. The old ones were on the side, the new ones are in. You could see the new ground that had been put in to indicate that work had been done. It's been signed off. And the highlight for me was driving through those sort of areas where people live and being chased by like 3 wild dogs. Awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty rural, but you're driving. I mean, just to give you a clue, we drove something like 4 or 5 miles, and that's about half the site. So when people wonder how big 20,000 acres is, you drove from about half the site from the rail loadout all the way down through West Virginia to the Kentucky border. Everywhere you could see was all owned by Ben's Creek. So there are huge amount of reserves unmined there. I mean, literally 20,000 acres worth. And as I think I've mentioned to you, and we have RNS, we will very soon have an updated resource report showing just exactly how many tons are on not only the site we started with, we IPO'd with, but also the 2 mineral tracts that we've bought, both of which have been RNS'd. We've been unable at the moment to RNS the amount of resource, but as soon as Marshall Miller finished that study, which is at least a third underway already, we will be able to update the market with exactly how many resources we've had, which I think most people will see is, at least one person's lifetime of mining.
Yeah, and the wash plant was pretty damn impressive. It's like a huge factory. It really is. I mean, the size of it and the vast, and how much that would cost to actually build that from scratch. I mean, we were asking some of the guys how much they thought this would all cost from a greenfield site, and it's actually not just about the cost; it's about all the permitting. Probably take maybe 5 years, and probably north of $150 million, I think, to put in place what is there. So yeah, for me, the scale of it, the professional way it's being done, I mean, I really was pretty much blown away. The whole thing is great. I mean, I think, it takes people to make a business, and the experience and the mining experience that is there, both from a point of view of mining, from the high wall miners, from the guy who's running the wash plant and making sure that we're getting the percentages right. I mean, last week he was telling me, because the high wall miners have done a great job, and he'd tweaked what was going on in the wash plant, they were getting 63 and 65% recovery. And obviously on all the figures, it was 50 to 55% recovery. Now, today they had about 54.5% recovery. So, it obviously going to depend on the mixes. But it was fascinating to see. And we've got some videos of me sitting at that wonderful desk. It's still there, so don't worry, everybody. It's not lost.
That can never be moved. But I think you're very kind there, Kevin. And I think Normally it's just me in London doing podcasts, and it really is nice to have you both come and visit the site. It's not me, clearly. If it were me mining the site, we wouldn't be anywhere close to where we are now. There are years of experience, and so it's lovely.
I think if it was Adam, we wouldn't have any call at all today.
Well, probably, but it's really nice for you to meet Larkin, to meet Vedat, to meet Alfred, to meet Paul, to meet the team and the people. There's at least 100 people on site today. You got to meet them all to understand what each and every person does. And, without you coming and making the effort to come down here, it's me in London summarizing it. It sounds great in a sort of podcast, but when you're actually there, and I know you took a number of videos and stuff, so you'll be able to show your viewers, who does what. I think we took we couldn't interview everybody, but I do believe you spent some time with Larkin, and you interviewed him. So at least Larkin's got 50 years of experience. So
they all made us feel extremely welcome, and as I say, we thank you for showing us round. It's been a delight, really.
Well, I think as well, we've really got nothing to hide, so it's a pleasure. And this is open to any investor or even potential investor. If you're in America, we would extend the same invite. We have done that in the past. Please come and have a look, because everything we tell you is transparent. We're a public company, and a lot of the sort of negative comments that I've seen, go away once you actually come and visit the site and see that it's for real. It's a big, scalable operation. We're making a lot of coal here. We're not at full capacity yet. I want to keep reiterating that. This is an expansion. We've got one high wall miner there at the moment. We're just about to start the deep mine. Eventually, we want to get to 2 high wall miners, and then we want to double shift both the high wall miners. So the production totals that we talk about, we're not making yet. But I think, by the end of July, beginning of August, we will be at full production. And then you can start multiplying, current numbers, i.e. Sale price, by tonnages. And you are always looking forward. But again, I don't want to misrepresent anything. And I think we showed you where the second permit is. You saw the second high wall miner on site. So they're already there. So a lot of the risks in expansion have been taken care of. We have both high wall miners on site. We have the permits in place. We have the yellow heavy equipment to move, to advance. You sat in a 777, which is, as you say, 100-ton trucks. You can see we've got the equipment there. You can see it's just a matter of time until we expand that out. And very, very quickly, relatively we'll be in for, especially from a listing date of, October, in far less than 12 months, we'll be at full capacity. All of the infrastructure assets have now been completed. So the most important and the riskiest things, such as the wash plant and the railway line, they've all been done. And you guys don't need me to tell you, you were able to inspect personally.
What I can say is that a lot of this equipment is just not freely available on the market here in the US. When I was speaking to the guys in the high wall miner, 83 of these were produced. Not all of them are in the US anymore. Caterpillar sold the license to somebody in India, and one of the deals was that they could not import them back into the US. So they actually only have a limited number of high wall miners. And we have one on site, which is contracted. We have the ability to have another one that is contracted. And Adam, through Ben's Creek, has already bought the third one. And there's a possibility of maybe even to buy another one, which we had discussed. So, I mean, the fact that they have this machinery really is a major coup in terms of being able to do what needs to be done here to get up to that 60, 70,000 tons per month in terms of production. And I think actually as time goes by, though Adam will tell me to shut up, it can probably be 100,000 tons a month within a period of time, because there is so much resource there, and the benchings just need to be done. We were shown the graphs of where the benches are going to be and where the high wall mining is going to be for the next number of years, not next number of weeks or months. So yeah, it's all very, not so much exciting, but it's all very clear, and they know what they're doing. And I can see like there's just a very clear plan. And these guys are miners, and they know what they're doing. And that was really revealing and very good.
I think from our point of view, we came to IPO, we talked about a 40,000 a month thing, which we have no issue in getting to. Just the single miner that we've got there will get us there when it runs on double shift. For me, I want to each time promise and deliver what I promise. So the second high wall miner, which was not originally put into the IPO, but has been announced subsequently, when we get to the 70,000 tons that I've talked about, and the numbers you've talked about, 70 by 12 is, what is that, 800 and something thousand, then I think we re-examine and come back again and say, now let's move to the next stage. But I don't want to get ahead of myself or the investors to get ahead of ourselves. I really want to get to July, August, get to what I've told investors we can do. And then, perhaps at that time, if you wanted to come again and we're at full production, we can then talk about expanding that production beyond the sort of numbers we've talked about.
Excellent. So on that note, should we head out for a burger and a beer or some wings?
Sure.
Sounds like a plan.
Sounds good to me. Thanks once again, Adam. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure. Thanks for coming. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Adam, for your hospitality. It's been great, and we really have enjoyed our time.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
So we're joined by our next guest, Professor Conroy. Welcome, Richard. How are you?
I'm very well indeed, thank you. Hope you're well also.
Very good, thanks. Yeah, very good. Busy time last week. Obviously, we've been in the US and obviously with our visit to Dublin, to Clontibret and Clay Lake. Excellent news obviously came out at the beginning of this week stating that the drilling was underway or is underway at Clontibret with initial 8 drill hole, 3,000 meter program. Do you want to tell us a bit more and how delighted you are with this?
Well, I was delighted that you could come over and begin to realize the sheer magnitude of the what will be a series of projects, very significant, even in relation to the overall mining scene. So it was really nice that you could get over, and delighted to see you, and look forward to seeing you coming on future occasions as we progress, and we hope to progress pretty rapidly. As you're aware, we have actually started the drilling program and started it on time. We're delighted with that, but it's just the start. You mentioned 3,000 meters, and 3,000 meters may sound quite a lot, and obviously it vastly increases the rate at which we're drilling. We'd be lucky if we could do 1,000 meters in a year, whereas now we're going straight ahead into 3,000 meters over the next couple of months. But that's only the very beginning. That'll be part of a very large program in which you'll be looking at tens of thousands of meters, never mind 3,000 meters. Because remember, what we're doing is moving towards bringing in a mine. We've demonstrated that the area is an entire new gold mining district, multi-million ounce district, with potential for really some quite large mines in it. And the primary objective of the joint venture is to bring in our first gold mine, probably at Clontibret. But there are a series of projects, and each of them we hope in due course will lead to a further mine. So it really is a pretty major project, even by world standards. But of course, coming to our own particular situation, which is what matters to us and to our shareholders, are the benefits we'll now get from it. Up until now, we've been a company with very good prospects, but nonetheless in the position of having each year, a couple of years, to raise money to fund a modest, but as it turned out, very successful program. Now we're in the situation of which a huge program is ongoing, and we don't have to pay the costs of it. Indeed, many of our costs are now completely covered. Costs of not only the actual program itself, of drilling and analysis and so on, and they mount up to quite a lot, but also all the other costs of the core sheds, of technical people, all these sort of things are now largely covered. And indeed, that goes on into the future, in that, first of all, there is the commitment to spend $4.5 million, which is now expenditure, and that has now started with the drilling program. Our colleagues in the joint venture, Demer Export, had already transferred $1 million in cash to us to come into the project and have their option. They're now commencing the expenditure of $4.5 million jointly with us. That will be followed by a further $4.5 million. And then you go into the actual process, the mining permitting process, and that can be pretty expensive as well. I don't think people quite realize how much money that may require. That brings us to the construction-ready status, and we still retain 42.5%. That construction-ready status, we have the option to come up with the funds for that 42.5%, which we would regard as highly likely since the balance is already found. But even if we don't wish to do that, we have the alternative of being carried for 25% and paying it back out of proceeds, and other options as well. So it's a very favorable financial position for us. And that is, in many ways, only just the beginning of it, in that, let us say we develop the joint venture decides to develop the Clay Lake project, which is probably much, much bigger than Clontarf. Again, we are carried through it. And again, we have the opportunity of retaining 42.5%. It's a very, very comfortable position. But the first thing is get on with this major drilling program. It's already started, and we'll be looking forward to you coming over and visiting us as it moves forward. It'll be a pretty big program. We'll be delighted to see you over there. But we're really in a very happy position. We have $1 million in cash plus the other cash that we already had, so we're in a very good cash position. We don't have the outlays for financing the drilling. So it's I must say, an excellent position to be in. But of course, we've had, many years of trying to make do, of trying to survive, of trying to keep the thing going. And it's tremendous to have this ultimate great success. I don't think it's recognized yet in the market, and that can annoy one at times, but they'll realize that they're onto something which could be very big indeed. I don't doubt that. And we're very happy as a company, and I myself and all my colleagues who have brought this about. So it's very good, and delighted you could come and see yourself and see the actual program, see it beginning, and see the sheer size of it. And I hope the next time you come over, you'll be able to come for a few days, because you really require at least 2 days, because you're looking at a very big area, about 400 square miles, with targets right down through it. And of course, we and our joint venture partners, we now have 100% of this entire new district, in which, as you know, in the area that you saw, Clontarf to Clay Lake, we're looking at there at a target of perhaps 8-9 million ounces, perhaps more. And that's only in the superficial, down to 250 meters. Nobody knows how much more there may be underneath that, but we would think there could be quite a lot. So it's a tremendous position, and we no longer have to go out there raising the finance for us, but obviously very actively participating in the program. So we're very, very happy indeed. Good to talk with you.
So, Professor Conroy, again, our thanks for allowing us to come and see everything. I mean, for me, it really was an eye-opener seeing those nice grass-covered Irish hills, and realizing that
there's a lot under that grass.
yeah, under that grass,
Crops
and
underneath it. Very happy.
What was made clear to me really was that, you know, this is not alluvial gold, which everybody seems to think of in the past. You know, this is gold in the bedrock itself, so it's not going anywhere. It's there. Yeah. Basically, it's going to take a lot of, or you're going to pull it up, or dig it up. You're going to crush the stuff, and then the gold is going to be released. And it's there. You know, we chopped it up. We were able to walk down to the stream, and which is where the bedrock intersects, and knock out some rock ourselves, and we could see the glistening gold in the rock. So that was quite amazing to see that. We obviously saw that also that the drill what was turning or about to turn, because the drill rig was there when we were there, even though we couldn't say until you released the RNS. So yeah, I mean, for any doubters out there, all I'd say to you is this is real. It's there. DEMEA know it's there, and they are putting their money where their mouth is and saying, we want part of this and we're going to pay for it to make sure it happens. So yeah, for me, there's not much more else, to say. I mean, obviously we joked about the fact that there's going to be many leprechauns and many rainbows coming out around Construed and around Clay Lake. But the interesting, also the real showstopper for me was that Conroy Gold also owns the farm at the center of Clontribbert. So everything can be done from that point, whether it's an open pit, whether you go down, all the ground is there ready to do that. And as we've said it before, Clontribbert could easily be 2 million, 3 million ounces of gold at least. And obviously from speaking to Kevin as well, the geologist there, who was very helpful and very useful to talk to, this type of gold effectively tends to get stronger the deeper it goes, because it's effectively come up through the bedrock. So what you get first is effectively the stronger gold that's allowed to get to the surface of the bedrock. But down deeper, you will have bigger pieces of gold that didn't manage to come up, or bigger volume of gold, let's say, not pieces.
It could be very interesting at depth. There's no doubt about that. It's big enough as it is already, but it could be even more interesting as you go down.
Yeah, and to see the gold cores that we saw, or the cores that we saw with plus 30 grams of gold in those cores. I mean, potentially this is absolutely mammoth, huge. What is potentially there, and I think a lot of people have been saying, oh, but they might not get the land, they might not get this, and they might not get that, and the gold might not be there. I think all of these things are not the case. I mean, you own the mineral rights of this area, and basically the farmers will have a choice. They can lease their land so that you can do it and then reclaim it and put it back as it was, or you can buy the land off them or the farm and you can move through. So, and you've done this before in another mine as well. So it's not that it hasn't happened, and you have the experience within the team that's done it already. It's going to do it again. And yeah, there could be some hurdles to overcome, but ultimately the gold is there. That's proven by the JORC report already of 500,000 ounces, which should have your company sitting at 40-50 million pound market cap, at least, just on the JORC report alone.
I think it'll be a lot more than that in due course as the industry takes it on board. We're in a tremendous position going forward with effectively all our costs covered, and with retention and a series of gold projects in which you're looking there at multi-million projects. So it's a very comfortable position. I don't doubt it's slightly annoying. The market hasn't fully realized it yet. That will come in due course. We're onto something very, very good indeed. It's a tremendous situation to be in now that we have our joint venture completed, signed off, completed, and the drilling actually started. In other words, the work to bring in the first mine. So it's a very nice position. We're very happy indeed. Looking forward to it, though. It'll be tremendously exciting. We've been around the course before in what was quite a major mine, the Galmoy mine that we brought in some years back, zinc mine brought in Ireland. We've been around the course before, as you quite rightly say. We're the one of the few groups that have brought in a mine in Ireland. There is, of course, the very large Navan mine as well. But, we've been around the course before. We know what it takes. There'll be lots of hurdles, don't doubt that for a moment. But whereas the Galmoy mine was a single deposit, a very large deposit, major zinc mine. But what we have here has the potential to be far, far greater than that. We have the entire area with a series of potentially very large gold deposits. There'll be a certain amount of base metals as well, as it happens, but primarily a major gold district. And we now have an excellent partner with all the technical expertise that's required, and with extensive finance available. So it's a very good position, very exciting position. Mind you, it took a long time to get here, but it's great to have arrived and have a world-class discovery. So we're really very happy. Look forward to it.
Basically, DeMere will have 57.5% of this when it's finally done, and you will have 42.5%.
On the first project. Well, it's a bit more than that, actually. DeMere will come in, our joint export partner, and of course, it's a great opportunity for them as well, because they'll be major partners in an entire new gold district, a multi-million ounce gold district. So we've done a good deal, but they've also done a pretty good deal. But they will earn in, which is another attraction of the deal to us. The money has to be spent to earn in the percentage, and they will spend minimum of 5.5 million in order to get 25%, then a further 4.5 million to bring themselves up to 40%. And then for each project, starting with the Clontibret project, but then probably been followed up by the Clay Lake project, by spending the funds. And these will be large funds when you're going through a permitting process, planning process, and actually all the technical work required to bring in a mine. And they'll be covering those costs. And the actual construction itself, of course, we come into it for our 40-odd%. So they can earn in 40% by the expenditures that I've mentioned. To bring each project up to 57.5%, they have to spend the additional funds in relation to that project. And at the end of the day, we retain 42.5% in each project, if we so wish, or a carry of 25% if we prefer that, or some other arrangement. So it's mutually beneficial. It's very attractive from their point of view. They're becoming the exclusive major partner in a 400 square mile gold district with a whole series of targets along it. But on the other hand, from our point of view, which is what we're immediately concerned with, we retain up to 42.5%. And we don't have to spend any money unless we wish to do so. So it's a very happy position to be in, I must say. Taken a long time, but it's really been worthwhile.
So once DeMere have spent this buy-in money, they're going to be at 40%. Then they have the opportunity to have 17.5% extra by getting the project mine ready for each different project.
Yep.
So that then leaves you with 42.5%. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, great. So, and then you have a further option of a completely free carry for the mine to take 25% on that particular project, and subsequently you will pay it back from revenue that is generated from the project. So for anybody listening, Conroy Gold does not actually have to raise a single pound to produce gold from the ground from
That's
this point on. And that is remarkable, a remarkable situation for a junior tiny miner to be in a situation where it can have 25% of a gold district basically handed to them, the revenue of 25%. It's absolutely bizarre that this company
is not handed to us. We've spent 20 years getting to this situation.
I understand that. But what I mean is, we're in a situation now where we've got a company that could potentially have literally tens of millions of ounces of gold. And we're in a situation where they won't have to pay another penny to get it out. And the market cap is 13 or 14 million pounds. It's absolutely bizarre. It's crazy. So, you know, that's the situation that we came away from, having come to see Contribute and Clay Lake. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see all the other areas which are also involved in the situation. But then that alone is 8-9 million ounces of gold, and that alone would have many, many multiples of the current situation. So, yeah, I'm excited. As I've said before, I am a shareholder in Conroy Gold myself, so I'm happy to admit that, and I will be, because I just don't see that there's that much that can go wrong. And I'm actually writing a proposal right now which basically says what can go wrong, because I want people to understand the different things that could go wrong, but actually they're probably not going to, because of all things.
Yeah, there will be hurdles, there will be difficulties, and there's no doubt about that. We've been around the course before. You have to go through planning permission, you have to get your mining permit, and you have all the technical matters that have to be attended to. These take time, there's no doubt about that, and take expense. We're now covered from having to make these quite major expenditures, but nonetheless, they are matters, and we'll be participating, as we already are, in the joint venture. And of course, it's very useful to have done something before. It's not all new to us. We've done it before, and we look forward to doing it again. But now it'll be on a far larger scale.
Just looking at the obviously the RNS related to 8 drill holes, going to be work's going to be carried out. And 3 of those are focused primarily on the eastern lodes to sort of see how far it extends.
Yes.
What can shareholders look forward to, let's say, over the coming months, into the 6 months of news flow from these, from the cores and the assays, do you think?
Well, I think there'll be quite a lot. This program is obviously far greater than the programs that we've been able to do in such a short space of time. These programs, were we doing them in the past, would have been over several years, whereas now we're doing 3,000 meters over a matter of a few months. And that 3,000 meters is only just the start of a 4.5 million drilling program, an exploration program. So there should be lots of news in the coming months. Okay, good to talk with you, and look forward to having you for a more prolonged visit. It was very nice having you over, but there's so much more to show you and so much more that you could see. So we look forward to seeing you as the drilling program progresses.
Professor Conroy Gold and Natural Resources, thanks very much for your time.
You're very welcome.
Thanks.
So, what do you think then? What a crazy week it's been. We went out. We left on Thursday of last week. Flew to Dublin. Went on site Friday. Flew straight out on the Saturday to New York. Had a couple of nights there. Drove down to the mine site down in West Virginia through about 5 different states: Delaware, Pennsylvania, Maryland, etc. Stopped at Philly for your Philly cheesecake. No, sorry, Philly cheesesteak. Yeah, you're very good with names, aren't you? I think you'll get there eventually. No, and then ultimately we ended up in West Virginia. As I said, at Ben's Creek, had a lovely tour of the mine. Saw the wash plant, saw the 2 high wall miners, which was remarkable, unbelievable. And here we are now in New York. A day to go, board the flight home, back to Blighty, and then do another field trip to Mast next week. So maybe that's where we should start with. This is Mast What do you think? I mean, I think they dropped to 4p. What are your thoughts on that one? I can't wait to go and see Piebridge and actually see and realise this gas peaking, how much in demand they are for energy reserves or power reserves or reserve power, however you want to refer to it. For me, it just seems massively undervalued at like 33% of the value of its IPO.
Yeah, no, it seems ludicrous, really, to be honest. From my own perspective, I look at this and say I think Highbridge on its own is possibly worth the market cap at the minute, and they've now had the potential to go up to 20 plus megawatt production. So it doesn't really make any sense, the current market cap. But hopefully, when people see it for real, and we end up having some more dialogue and conversation with people who will understand. I mean, it was only a month back, was it? 6 weeks maybe, when it was up at 8p. And then what happened then? The Ukraine war, I think it was. Talk about bad timing. And then people, I think, have just lost interest and moved on. So it's an absolute bargain as far as I'm concerned. But it was interesting you mentioned about us going to Conroy, and Conroy Gold feels like it happened about 3 years ago now, because we've had so much that we've done. But an amazing potential, absolutely amazing potential there. To knock out the gold in the stream as we did was a real treat, and to see the countryside and exactly where the mine is going to be really was a pleasure for us to do. And I can't see. I'm writing a thing at the minute. I said to people about what could go wrong in terms of this, and I'm not sure there's a huge amount that can go wrong. But obviously, it's a mining situation, so things can go wrong. But I really do think it's primed for the future. And Ben's Creek, well, what an operation! I mean, I don't know about you, but I didn't expect what we saw. Did you?
No, not a stock that's listed on the AIM market with an overseas, an American operation like that, so well executed, so professional. The staff we met were all professional. They were humble. They were extremely experienced engineers, geologists, mining experts, managers, underground staff. All of even the underground miners were just so accommodating and humble. For me, it was a professional. It's a FTSE 100 company operation, is the way I would liken it to.
Yeah, I don't know what a FTSE 100 operation looks like, but it was slick, it was professional. I just think they've got it right. And I mean, they didn't hide anything from us. We were able to see whatever we wanted to see, and everything was just happening. Even the guy who's organising to make sure that the wash plant is as efficient as possible. What was his name again?
Verdar,
Verdar. He's a Turkish guy, but trained over here in the US as a mining degree. Guy very switched on, and ultimately, I can see that they have all the parts there to make this work and make it work very efficiently and cost effectively.
All right. Well, cool. We've done those two, not to death, but let's move on to the week, I guess. I mean, obviously, the announcement in the UK about interest rates moving up to 1%, and then obviously in the US as well. Ironically, we were just talking about the state of the Fed and everything, and on the Thursday we heard, actually on the Wednesday, that they increased their interest rates as well. So it's kind of like moving a line, obviously an acknowledgement of the fact that we're in super high levels of inflation. So the Fed and the Bank of England are obviously trying to balance things out by moving the interest rates up, which is inevitable. And they've been too low for too long anyway. They should be in the 5, 6, 7, probably 8% now in reality terms. But anyway, regardless of that, obviously there's been, towards the end of the week, there's been a negative effect on the Dow. We've seen a big drop back in a lot of stocks. There's been a bit of a sell-off. So, it's had a negative impact on the UK market because, America sneezes and we catch the cold, as you say. But yeah, it's been interesting being out here during that time and hearing chatting bars. Oh my word, the Dow's down. It's a really bad time. But ultimately, are we going to go into recession? Who knows? I mean, I think we are literally not far away from a potential recession in the UK. US could be a different thing. We just don't know until the Fed gets their act together and tries to balance things out with the inflation rates. But ultimately, there's been some standout stocks this week. Some for better, some for worse. We've had Vast Resources, one that's been sat at about just under 500,000 market cap. I think it did in its peak this week about 10x on its original, from like the 0.28 levels up to the 2.8. So effectively it did within about 4 or 5 training sessions. It did a 10x. Now I think it finished the day at around the 1.415 mark. So obviously it's back down there, but it's interesting to see this operation with a CEO who unfortunately doesn't have the best rep, but actually maybe the revenue figures are actually really impressive. I mean, they were up from 900,000 a quarter to 2.2 million. And they had a market cap of around 500,000. So it's no surprising really that it's re-rated, is it?
Yeah, no, at all. I mean, it was like a rocket ship, wasn't it? But from such a low base, it doesn't take a lot for that to happen, obviously. Coming back to your point about interest rates, yeah, I mean, we're going into an interest rate cycle uptick for sure. And the reality is, economically, it's like trying to break a nut with a hammer, because interest rates is a very blunt instrument. It's not really necessarily going to have a positive effect. But you only need to go to the shops. I mean, certainly here in America, we've noticed it, obviously, because of the strength of the dollar. I mean, the dollar's 125, 123 to the pound here. It's like seriously expensive. And not just because it's New York. Everything's going up in price as well. Even I noticed in the UK as well, everything is very, very expensive. So, but we've got this problem now that the governments are so indebted that how can they put the interest rates up very high? Because they can't afford it. It's like they can't afford the interest
people who are going to benefit from it are the banks and savers ultimately, right? Like who's going to benefit from an interest rate rise? You're going to penalise those who are on variable rate mortgages. Ultimately, businesses who are borrowing on those rates, who have got non-variable, non-fixed rate bonds and rates and loans. Ultimately, the only people who are going to gain in this market are the actual lenders, the LIBOR, and the savers. And how many people are going to make a benefit from a 0.5% increase in savings? It's going to be negligible, right?
No, absolutely. Negligible. It's going to be a lot more, because there's so much more debt in the economy. There's going to be a lot more pain from the interest rate hikes. But I mean, to stabilize interest rates, what are we going to have to do? We're going to have to go to, the new norm. Is it going to be 2-3%? I don't know, because I mean, my first mortgage was at 15.5% in the late 80s. So it's a crazy situation.
So moving on, obviously a bit of a shocker today or at the end of the week was Carroll Minerals. Martin Churchhouse, obviously, we've had on the podcast many times. There's an announcement that said, obviously, that Martin and Mike Johnson would be effectively, retiring from the company. New gentleman, Charlie Long, on board as CEO. Obviously came as a very much a shock to us, didn't it? I think we spoke to Martin yesterday on this, and we were like, "Wow!" We were, and because Martin is the face of Carroll, but he assured us that that ultimately the company, he's still going to remain in a position of almost like an advisory role. He's going to be in Cyprus, the next couple of weeks, talking with Jubilee. Obviously, they're hopefully going to progress on with the joint venture, the second joint venture in there. And ultimately, I got a good positive feeling from him. For whatever reason, he's had to move away from the company. He's got potentially other interests. The one announcement there was that people have said to him, well, why aren't they focusing on Cyprus? Well, ultimately, they've got their assets in Cyprus, but there are also some strong assets in Africa that they can't ignore, right?
Yeah, I think that seems to be the way the new board are going to want to take it, I think. I mean, for me personally, I have a lot of time for Martin. He's a very good guy. And I'm disappointed, to be honest, that that's happened. But it is what it is. Things change. And, having talked to him, he's sort of a little bit disappointed that he hasn't got to finish this whole situation. But at the same time, he's going to be there for at least the next 12 months. as a consultant, and will see through many of the things that are going to be happening. And then there should be some more exciting things on the go. And talking about exciting things, we want to go to TM1. They had a sale go through today, or the
Technology Minerals, yeah, they had a MOU, memorandum of understanding related to the Blackbird and Imperium assets in Idaho, where they sold down 10% of those assets for £900,000 to Bluebird Investments to effectively it was a not an indirect party but a related party transaction, let's say, which caused obviously a bit of consternation. But we did actually talk to Alex about that on a podcast which will be released later in the week as a midweek. So we have actually spoken to him. But yeah, I mean, it looks good. I mean, they floated around, IPO'd in November around the sort of 2.25 mark or 2.3 mark. And they did move up to the 5.5, and they have since dropped back. But ultimately, they've got stronger. They've got this MOU. They've got cash coming in. They've got potential. They're getting closer every day to an EA, which is coming out, which is like their license application for environmental studies on 2 or 3 other sites within, their factory sites for the EV recycling. They've got the recyclers contracts in place, and it just looks really good.
5 assets have they now all spotted around the world in terms of the resources that they've got. And I don't think they intend to necessarily take those production themselves. They will probably sell parts on and
Option them
out is right. So, I think it's going to be a cash cow coming along. I think there is a note out already saying, I broke a note out saying 7p as a target. It's about 3p or just over 3p now. So it's one to look at, I think. Another one to look at really probably is Cloudbreak. It's I don't know why on earth it's happened, but it's down to 3.7p, having been 12p.
13.5 was the high. I mean, it's been remarkable.
Absolutely bizarre.
How can something drop, generate that much interest and then drop back to these levels? Yeah, of course, there's going to be profit taken on the way, but ultimately, it's only just above the IPO price of 3p. Remember, it sat around 1.5 pence for months and months, probably 6 to 8 months. Then it moved up. A lot of interest in it. These funds, overseas funds, appeared to be buying. It moved it up, and now it just presents such a bargain. We've got something like 19 projects inside this now.
I think 1 or 2, or maybe 3 of those projects are going to value the company at 3.7p. It's crazy. And then we come on to what is really the CBD disaster zone, I suppose, is the best way to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, that Life was an absolute shocker. I mean, I've been a big proponent of Life. Hold a lot of shares in there, and then they suspend. Was that on? I can't remember which day. It was probably Tuesday or Wednesday of this week. There was the announcements put out at the end of the day. It wasn't an intraday announcement. Normally, when a stock suspends, it suspends at 7 a.m. Then you get an announcement maybe half an hour later, just before market, the normal market would open, or even an hour or 2. You get an announcement explaining the suspension. Oh no, they put it out after market for some reason, like it's going to make a difference. It really is irrelevant when you put that announcement out. It was put out explaining that a investor that had committed to £1.2 million within the last placing raise had not committed to the funds, i.e. the funds were never delivered for whatever reason. And that was and Peterhouse, the broker, had then resigned. And now obviously we know that when you're a nomad or an advisor, if you get in a position, certainly on the AIM and Aquas, if your nomad or your advisor resigns, steps down, retires, however you want to refer to it as, then you are automatically suspended. So ultimately, that's the reality of the situation. So it's been, whether that's an oversight in the reporting, it really does not bode well for this company going forward. And that pains me to say it, because I've been a massive proponent. I just hope that they can get onto the main market, get the listing going through, and that this isn't going to put a spanner in the works. But ultimately, I do fear for it now. I fear for the investment.
Yeah, I mean, I have nothing positive to say about it, to be honest with you. I mean, But to not have 1.2 million and have not received that for quite a period of time, and not Peterhouse, which seems to be why this has all happened, is not good form, really, is it? So, and then we move on to Chill, which is also having its own issues. Just raised £3.5 million at 2 pence. Like, it's hard to even say that. I'm not sure I want to say it. At 2 pence, considering it was £1, a year or so ago, it's just bizarre.
Just shows the importance of slicing out these companies when never fall in love with a ticker. It's been said, but like, why? If you'd have been holding this stock right from the H&R level, Days and Zoetic, and then into there. If you had been a significant holder with a couple of million shares and you did not sell and de-risk at £1 or even 80, all on the way up, then I cannot stress how not stupid. It's not stupidity. It's just a lack of foresight and it's not protecting your investment.
But we all know that situation, don't we? We all know that situation that says, I'm going for the jackpot. I'm not going for 5 numbers.
But it's a jackpot.
I'm going for 6 numbers.
But anyone who's put in 2 million at 5p, who would not take the profits or even trim $1 million out?
Yeah. Well, quite obviously, in terms of Chill, many didn't, I did trim on the way down quite heavily, and my average is quite good now, but the reality of the situation is still massively underwater still. So, I mean, I do think that Callum's now got sort of a blank piece of paper. He's going to have £3.5 million, and, I think the real story here is probably chill.com. And also possibly feminized seeds.
It's whether we can get the product out to market with revenues and the right distribution partners for £3.5 million. If you think you can do that with that amount of cash, obviously, if he doesn't, then he'll have to go back to the market and rate. How many times have Love Hemp been and gone capping out? So this could be the start of that spiral where Chill becomes the net, the dilute down. That's the ultimate reality of it. I don't know. It's really frustrating, isn't it? When you think, the weird thing is when you've got a product that's on the market and, you can buy it in Boots, Holland and Barrett, you can buy Chill wherever, in stores. How frustrating is it that you've got an actual product to market that people are enjoying, but that the finances are not what they seem, and that's the reality. So the next one is McColl's onto stocks and not stocks onto high streets and the actual shops or whatever you want to call it, supermarkets, mini markets. McColl's has been an interesting one, hasn't it? It's been had a potential issue with funding, as we know, the whole Morrison's element of it and the ESA, but at the end of the day, they were suspended going into administration, but then there was obviously talk of Asda coming in to potentially bail them out of that. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, it's moved really well in the last 6 months. Obviously, it's dropped back. If you were a shareholder at the sort of 20, 40, 50p mark, you were underwater. But if you were buying in the 0.5p mark that it dropped down to this week, you could have done well to the 2p. So I think it's offered a really, if you've got the cojones or the cajones, as we've said, you could have really traded that swing, couldn't you, and made some money on it. But you'd have had to have a lot of courage to go into a stock like this.
It's casino stock, really, at this level. It's like black or blue, isn't it? Or black or red. Sorry, it's black or red. You could be hitting it out the park, literally, because it comes back with finance and it's still got its shareholdings. Then 5 to 10p is probably not out of the question from nowhere. Or alternatively, it gets bought and shareholders get wiped out. Goodbye.
That's the danger, I guess, when you got a stock. F-Jet was the same, wasn't it? Remember FastJet, where they were in and out of administration. They eventually delisted, suspended, and that was it, wiped out. Got nothing out of it. There's not a saviour. So ultimately, it's always been a kind of, like, as you say, a big punt play, massive risk. Hopefully those who were in it did manage to get out with some profits and swing traded it. So other than that,
ultimately, some people are holding the baby.
Oh yeah, without a doubt, and that's the nature of that's why you're in it. It's high risk, high reward, and we know the risks, and it all should do before we buy those stocks. Blanco Resources has been one that has, again, the graphite space, we've talked about it, unbelievably cheap now, but dropped back from, they placed at 5p, and we had people complaining it was too cheap.
Yeah.
Well, now it's now at 4p. So is that too cheap now?
So,
are you happy with that?
So get in and placing at 4p now.
Yeah.
He's going to be placing.
Yeah. The reality is if you're complaining that you didn't get in on the 5p place, it was too cheap, maybe you should be buying now at 4p, right? 4.03p.
No, and I mean, I don't think people quite grasp the lack of graphite that there's going to be in the world. I just don't think anybody gets it. If you think lithium is going to be in short supply, I mean, graphite is going to be like hen's teeth, literally. It's really, I mean, we know there's going to be not enough copper. We know there's probably not going to be enough lithium. We know there's not going to be enough nickel. But we definitely know there's not going to be enough graphite. And you've got Blanco Resources, and you've got, what's the other one? Sovereign Metals, who basically are producing graphite as a basically byproduct of the rutile. So both of those companies, but it seems Blanco now is ridiculously cheap. And but how many of the resource sector stocks are ridiculously cheap, yet at the same time we're in an inflationary environment, and this is the time that these things should be going. The resources themselves are going up in value, but the stocks themselves are not going up in value. So, having visited 2 resource stocks over the last week, and we're going to go to another one on Monday with Mast, I think we'll leave it there. But first of all, we'll tell you the story that happened last night.
Highlight of the trip for me was absolutely fucking. I just swore. Highlight of the trip for me. I won't swear because I've had to relay it today. Basically, so we're driving through New York. We've had to return our car, hire car, right back, and it was a Range. It was a Velar. It was basically like a poverty spec Range Rover, yeah. But it had Range Rovers always have a really good sound system in them, right? And what do you do as 2 tourists when you're in New York?
Well, what does Phil do?
If you're into your music and you've had a few beers and Kev's driving, passenger there with his Spotify on, pumped through the Apple CarPlay. I've got, we've had Beastie Boys on. We had Rapper's Delight, Sugar Hill Gang. We were basically being the cheesy tourists banging out the New York rap scene, right? We had Crystal Waters, Ladder D, really cheesy. Anyway, so we drove around this corner and the windows are down, or the front 2, not the whole lot. We've got a bit of decorum, and we didn't drop all 4. And we drove into this side street, and we pulls into this traffic jam, right? As you do in New York, you're always going to find a stop-start scenario. So we're there, windows down, Crystal Waters on, everyone's singing on, and Kev's reaching out, there's people there who are working late at night at 9 o'clock, and he's getting, come on, dance, and they're all dancing to this ladder. We've got a mobile disco on our hands, right? Anyway, 5 minutes later, the car hasn't, the traffic's solid, right? It's not, the traffic jam hasn't moved, right? And this guy comes along, and he's leans into the window. Kevin's driving. He goes, "Hey guys, any reason why you're blocking the road off, and playing music?" And I looked at Kevin. Went, "Well, what do you want us to do? Do you want us to move forward?" And he goes, "No."
I said, "There's a car there."
There's a car there, right? And he goes, "No, it's parked, man." So basically, we'd sat for 10 minutes, right, holding all the traffic. We were in all the horns going up. And we'd been parked behind a stationary line of parked cars, blocking all the. And we just went, "Wow, really? This is stopped." And then the next minute, he goes, the guy turns around and shouts down. Everybody shouts down. They go, "Hey guys, these guys think it's a traffic jam, man. The douchebags. They think it's parked." And that was it, man. It was the best moment. We were literally, I don't think we had to pull over for another 5 minutes just to stop the pant wetting, and it was that much of an exercising, just like brilliant. So that for me was the highlight in terms of memorable laughing moments of it. On that note, so thanks everyone for listening, and hopefully, we'll get some. We've got 2 or 3 podcasts that are going to go out early next week on the midweek. Look out for them. We've got Tech Minerals. We've got a couple of others.
And there'll be some write-ups hopefully towards the end of next week about our trips and a few more details with you.
Other than that, have a great one, and thanks for listening to us, and hopefully you'll enjoy. As I say, you look out on Twitter. You see more videos, more photos coming out from the sites you visited, and have a great one.
Yeah, thanks again.
This podcast was brought to you by Roast PR Limited. If you would like to appear on a future episode of The Sunday Roast, please email admin@thesundayroast.net.